Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 3rd in the year 2022, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl consulting firm. This past weekend, the National Football League, the NFL, the draft was held. Who won, who lost? Like most things, it's a matter of opinion and still to be decided. There were more than 100 young men whose names were called out as they will now move on to the next level of their lives as professional football players. It was an exciting day for most and a somewhat disappointing day for some. Malik Willis, a projected number one choice, not only didn't go number one, he didn't go until the third round. What a mistake. Was it calculated? Well, we'll discuss it today. Also, last week, a young woman who's been a guest on this show made a big move on her professional athletic journey when she accepted the assistant basketball coach job and recruiting coordinator at Arizona State University. Michaela Walker, daughter of our roundtable regular Michael Walker, and a past guest on Tuesdays with Thom, made a serious move as she joined the Wildcats, I guess, as a recruiting coordinator. Malik Willis and Michaela Walker and the serious turns their athletic careers took this past couple of weeks, we'll talk about on today's show. Our G-list guest for this week's show is Dr. Dave Dyson. Dr. Dave Dyson founded the nonprofit Personal Leadership Association to help people write plans for life and develop personal leadership. We look forward to that chat today as well. So this edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
It's a solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. I'm going to start with Michael Walker today. Michael Walker, how you doing?
I am doing well, Thom. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So I'm grinning because your daughter has made a big move.
Yes, she has.
And you're grinning too. So you want to talk about it?
Well, absolutely. Congratulations to my daughter, Michaela Walker. She's accepted a position as assistant coach and recruiting coordinator for Arizona State University, and they are the Sun Devils.
Yeah, okay.
Their name. They're the Sun Devils.
Know that.
Yes. We exchanged some text messages last night. I just touched bases with her, see how things are going, and she said they're going great. She says, I love it here. I know one of the things that she's excited about is because Michaela, of course, was born in Atlanta, raised in the South, and she's happy to get away from all the snow and move out to Arizona, a place where it's a warmer climate and what have you, and I guess something that's more accustomed to the weather here in Atlanta, you know.
So when a coach goes from, where was she, Delaware?
She was at Delaware. So
goes from one end of the country to the other. How do they maintain that recruiting base? I'm sure they've been working some kids since they were very young, but now they're on the other end of the country.
That's true, but they stay in contact with them because it's all about relationships right now. And fortunately for Michaela, she was recruiting primarily all over the country anyway, especially during this time of the year when she would hit the road. She would be in Texas, the Midwest, Southwest, places like that, looking as well as the DC area. So I would maintain that she's probably going to maintain those relationships that she's built up anyway.
Okay. All right. I want to come back to you about Malik Willis, but let me get Barbara on here for a minute, and we'll come back and continue that conversation. Barbara, where are you?
Good morning, Thom. I am in Birmingham this morning.
All right. What's wrong? You at home?
I'm at home. Yes, I am.
So what's going on with you?
I want to first say congratulations to Michaela as well. That is absolutely wonderful. We're super proud of her, and I know you are too, Michael. So congrats to Michaela. But I want to remind all of our viewers, and you all too, that Sunday is Mother's Day. So if you haven't done your Mother's Day shopping, guys, it's time to get out there and do your shopping. You have a few more days left. So make sure you get to it. I want to say happy Mother's Day, early Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there.
All right. I hear you.
Yeah. And you mentioned the NFL draft. I want to say congratulations to Roger McCreary. He was the lone Auburn football player who was drafted in this year's draft. And this is the first time since 2013 that Auburn just had one player drafted. So, but on the flip side, the SEC had, I think, the highest number of draftees from their conference. I think 16 years in a row now. This has been the case. So that's a really good thing for the SEC. And I think Georgia had like 15 players from their school alone. So that's tremendous.
Well, let's flip it back to the other side and talk about why they only had one player drafted. Yeah. What do you guys attribute that to?
Well, I'm not sure, Thom. There's an article out there that I just shared this morning that some people are pointing fingers at Coach Harsin, saying that has a lot to do with him. So I'm not really sure. I would love to get you guys' opinions on that as well.
Well, let's get Michael's opinion.
Well, I don't know how you can point the finger at Harsin. He's only been there for 1 year. Mm-hmm. And the players that he coached were players he primarily inherited. I saw another article that says it has more to do with Gus Malzahn and his lack of developing players. Thom and I have spoken often about how Gus does not develop players. When players come into Auburn, whatever level or skill set they have at that point, it's the same when they leave. If not, it goes down. And we saw many quarterbacks came in at a higher level, and by the time they graduated, their level had gone down. I think it's more contributed to the fact of Auburn's record. You know, people remember what they saw last. Mm-hmm. And I would say that had Auburn had a much better record and had been in the college football playoffs and had stayed in the top 10 all year long and won those games that they should have won, more players would have gotten a look. They tend to think that if you're not on a winning team, then you're not a really good player, and that's not the case.
Right.
Well, I also feel like, we lost a lot of players. It would be interesting to know, and I didn't go through it in any detail, to know how many of those players who left Auburn ended up in the draft from another school. And we know one, of course, in Malik Willis.
Right.
So that was interesting. Let's talk about Malik Willis for a minute. I was shocked, to be honest, that he went as late as he did. When all of even Mel Kiper Jr. liked him. I mean, come on. If Mel Kiper Jr. likes a quarterback, especially a black quarterback, that's saying something. So I was really surprised.
I'm like you, Thom. I was totally surprised. I thought he would at least go in the top 5. So for him to be still there the third round, I was just totally shocked.
Well, he had been pegged or picked to go in the first round, to be the first quarterback taken. I don't know. I know that from some things that I've heard, and this really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They're saying he didn't throw many balls across the middle. Most of his passes were down the sideline and, out routes and stuff like that. Well, we all know that if you throw the ball across the middle, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. They can get tipped. They can be intercepted. So if the object of the quarterback is to complete a high percent of passes, then you throw to the areas where you have a better chance of completing passes. Absolutely. We also don't know what the plays were called. So
Right.
a lot of things that they are blame on a player really falls back to the coach and who was calling the offensive plays and saying where the play of the ball should go. So I don't really buy into that. I really think what it is more of the fact that he came from Liberty, and they're trying to say he didn't go against top flight competition day in and day out, as if he would have been had he been in a Power 5 school like, of course, SEC is king, but if he had been in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or ACC, then they would have said the caliber of player he went against and competition was much better. So I think they're trying to use that. One thing I like to know is the fact that Malik scored a 32 on the Wonderlic Test. And, every year.
Tell us about that test, Mike.
Well, see, the Wonderlic Test is a test where they measure your cognitive abilities in order to dissect and look at patterns and recognize patterns and develop strategies and stuff like that. And every year, they always talk about the Wonderlic Test and how important it is, especially when it comes to players that are of a certain skin color. It was always they scored low on the Wonderlic Test. There was a big thing about the quarterback that came out of Texas that won the Heisman Trophy. His name escapes me now, but he made an 11 on the Wonderlic Test. So they said, well, that's a predictor that he's not going to do very well. And that would impact Vince Young.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Vince Young. Okay. But if you scored high, then it was always somewhat of a predictor of how well you would be able to read plays and do all that type of stuff. Well, the quarterback that went first this year was Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. He scored a 17.
Yeah.
But this year they don't say anything about the Wonderlic Test.
Yeah.
You haven't heard that being brought up much. And they can't come up with anything on Malik Willis as far as off-field character. Everybody says he's a great interview. They love
and he had a great combine, didn't he? Didn't he?
Did. Well, that's another thing. You bring that up, Barbara. Kenny Pickett, I don't recall going to the combine. I think he sat out. And Malik Willis, on the other hand, went to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, showed out there, went to the combine. That's where he got all his lofty praises from.
Right.
But yet and still, he's in the third round. But I think he may be better off by going there anyway.
I'm going to agree with you from the standpoint of now he may not be he won't be better off in terms of signing bonuses and things like that initially, but in the long run I think hopefully he'll understand how the system works now, and he now has a chance to prove himself, to make a lot of people look bad. This kid is, from everything I saw, was pretty phenomenal. I mean, they started talking about him mid-season and never stopped.
Right.
Now you can't say if you're Liberty and you're playing LSU, you're probably not going to look good.
Right.
If you're playing a Power 5 school, you're probably not going to look as good. Let me put it this way: look as good as it would be if you were playing a team of your caliber. So I don't know. What's interesting is I didn't hear any of these concerns come up during the roll up to the draft.
Right.
He was the best thing since sliced bread.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, he's not the best thing since sliced bread. And
that's what makes it so surprising, Thom, because everyone was singing his praises all the way up through draft day. I mean, everyone thought he was going to go, very high in the draft. And then all of a sudden something happened. Something happened overnight. Nothing negative have come out other than, again, they're saying he didn't play in a Power 5 conference. But to me, the guy has proven himself over and over again. So I have issues with it, but that doesn't change the fact that, he still was drafted third round.
Well, Tom, you made a comment. You said that if you're playing a Power 5 school or a team that's better in talent-wise, you may not look as good as you would if you're playing somebody on your own level. Well, the other part of that is, especially playing the quarterback position, you've got to have protection up front in order to make your throws and read and do all that. And I heard people from Georgia last year saying that their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, whom they hate, said he didn't look good against Alabama. And I said, well, Alabama made a lot of quarterbacks not look good.
Right.
I said, so give me something better than that,
Right.
And you're talking about 2 Power 5 schools and
Right.
schools that's in the playoffs every year. Okay. So for them to say that he didn't look as good when he stepped up, perhaps his surrounding cast wasn't as good either.
Oh, I no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can tell that impacts his ability to play. So you could take Peyton Manning and put him on a team that can't block and whatever, and he will not look like Peyton Manning.
That's so true.
So
And when he was at Tennessee, he wasn't Peyton Manning. That looked good.
Right.
Well, that's my point. That's my point. Because T. Martin won the national championship, not Peyton Manning.
That's so true.
That's right. I think it's interesting, and particularly the fact that, and I mentioned his name once before. I've never seen Mel Kiper Jr. praise. I'm just gonna be frank. Black quarterbacks. There's always something wrong with them, but I never heard him say a negative word about this kid.
And usually it's accuracy, Tom. Usually they talk about the accuracy when it comes to a black quarterback who has the ability to run. He's a running quarterback, or or he's an athlete playing quarterback.
Right.
We didn't hear any of that with Malik, because he can throw the ball and he's pretty accurate.
Did you see that one that clip they show of him when he throws the ball? I mean, he's got to throw it like 70 yards in the air and hit this guy on the dead run in the end zone. It was just amazing. But I do think that in the long run, he'll be a better person for it. He will have gone through this adversity, and he will have gone through adversity at least twice. Once at Auburn, where he didn't get to play at all. Or he played, but he just handed off, and then had to leave so that he could get the opportunity to play. And now with the draft, and so hopefully he'll understand that adversity is part of the deal, and he'll be a better person for it.
Right.
Becky Davis asked, "What's the highest number on the test?" And I'm not exactly sure, but I know that one person scored a 48 on the test. I would think maybe it may be a 50.
I think 50.
Becky, that's what I would say is a 50. But you can score higher than that. But to have a player score in the 30s is pretty good. Yes. And Vernell is saying that's definitely not the case, Michael. I guess where we say SEC is the best conference. Vernell, if you're referring to the fact that the SEC is not the best football conference, just look at the draft. Year in and year out, more players are drafted from the SEC than any other conference. And if you go back and look at the last 10 or 12 national championships, the only other teams to win in a championship, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, would be Clemson and Ohio State. The rest of them has been all SEC schools.
Yeah. You mean South Carolina wasn't one? Okay.
So they are an SEC school, but they win in women's basketball, Tom. So we can give them that.
Well, they're tough in women's basketball. That's for sure.
Yes.
Vernell says she was referring to your statement about the players, Michael.
Okay.
The players from the SEC?
Yeah.
Well, they draft more than any other.
Yeah.
Conference.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it. They say that the SEC is the next level to the NFL. That's why so many players want to come there. And when you look at at 5 stars and the top players, they always have 4 or 5 SEC schools in their top 10.
Right. Yeah, I think there were like 40, either 45, 48 players this year from the SEC that was drafted.
How many did Alabama have? I didn't.
Alabama had 7.
Okay.
Georgia had like 15.
Wow.
LSU had 10. Alabama and I think Ole Miss had 6.
This is interesting because Georgia had 15, and that's a result of one or two of those great recruiting years.
Yes.
Great recruiting years generally translate to draft choices and translate to playing in the NFL.
Right.
So there are some steps that need to be taken, going back to Auburn, to bring us up. I did see where, and I don't know the name. I remember Coach Chiswick them did this one year. They got on a bus and they went all up and down the state of Alabama. It was called the Tiger Trail or something to that effect. And I did see where Coach Harsin and his team of coaches are going to be doing that. You know, and great. Obviously, him being from wherever he is from out there in the where is he from? Iowa State? One of them, Idaho State?
Boise, Iowa.
Boise, yeah.
Idaho. Boise, Idaho.
Okay, then, you know, not having those contacts with those coaches in the state or even in the South, it's probably will slow things down in terms of the recruiting. But and then I don't know, you know, it isn't as important to me now. I haven't how to recruit the state. Recruit the state used to be a huge thing.
Yes.
And I don't know if it is as big as it used to be. I'll just put it that way. I'm sure it's still important. Okay. You guys got anything else you want to bring up here?
The other thing I want to mention, Thom, is I want to congratulate all the 2022 graduates as well. Graduation is coming up this weekend for a lot of colleges and universities. So congratulations to all of our graduates.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds good. Let's move forward here then. Let's go on to Got a Minute, and then we'll get to our G-list guests. Sean Jones, you got a minute.
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope everyone is well and in great spirits this week. It's the first week of May, and not only am I giving the love, I'm also feeling the love in return. I'm pretty sure you're wondering why, right? Right. Well, my family and I are getting ready to celebrate Mother's Day, which is this Sunday, May 9th. Mother's Day was founded by Anna Jarvis and is celebrated every year on the second Sunday of May to honor mothers and motherhood. Mother is a person who can't be forgotten. Because of them, life exists on this earth. Be it your mother, my mother, his sister, or her grandmother, let us all honor mothers of the world, whether they are with us here or they're with us in spirit. To describe my mother would be to write about a hurricane in its perfect power, or the climbing, falling colors of a rainbow. Maya Angelou. Thank you for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Okay, Sean, can you come back on here? Sean?
Where are you, Sean?
Hi.
Okay, so what are you guys doing for Mother's Day?
I'm actually taking my mom on vacation. This is like a annual thing that I started about 6 years ago. So I let her choose wherever it is that she wants to go, and I take her. And this year is actually pretty special because not only am I taking my mom, but I'm also bringing along my aunt and my grandmother.
Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
your
sweet.
son, I assume.
Yes, of course.
So that you're a mother as well. So
Yes.
you guys are going to Disney?
We are. We're gonna go to Disney.
Have you guys gotten permission from Governor DeSantis to go? To go?
No, we haven't. I think we're gonna kind of just sneak under the radar there.
Did you guys? I don't know if you guys saw yesterday. Disney put out a statement to the governor and said,
I did not see that.
"Oh, you should have read it." The statement was, I'm paraphrasing it, either put up $1 billion or shut the up. I thought that was pretty good.
Yes.
I support it.
That will, I'm sure, go on for a while. So anyway, well, we hope you guys have a great time, Sean. So we're going to move
Happy
on
Mother's Day, Sean.
to the our G list. And of course, our G list is sponsored by Best Girl. And we're going to move on to the G list. And our G list guest is Dr. Dave Dyson. Dr. Dave is, as I said earlier, he founded the nonprofit Personal Leadership Association to help people write plans for life and to develop personal leadership in public seminars for 25 years. He also has his life leaders, and he has the 7 areas of life, which we're going to discuss. So let's get Dr. Dave on here. Dave, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Coach. Thanks, Tom.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a few decades, but I still remember working with you years ago when you were running some leadership development programs and let me help teach them.
Well, it was fun, and we're glad you're here with us today. So tell us where you've been and what you've been doing.
Well, the Life Leaders started about 30 years ago with its main mission to help people write plans for life and then learn about personal leadership. And we did that for 25 years. And then after the 9/11 attacks, we added patriotism and action and got super involved with that, wrote a couple of books and started supporting Veterans Day for the state of Alabama. And in the last decade, we've added another one called Compassion Ranch. And it's about taking care of animals who need a second chance, who've been abused by people, and using them to teach character traits to students like compassion and courage and cooperation. So those are some of the big 3 goals.
And so tell me about, this is one thing I want to add. Tell me about the 7 areas of life.
Would love to. Tom, when I left Birmingham Southern College and I was going to Vanderbilt to do my last year of residency, I had about a month before starting to try to answer what's the best list for the areas of life that I and other people could use, and they were all over the place. So I came up with 7, and there are physical, financial, professional, personal, social, philanthropical, and spiritual. So imagine the pyramid, and they fit with, I've got 7 motivating values that I stand on the shoulders of Abraham Maslow. You've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy. And so that's pretty much it. So what I recommend is that people not just sit down and write goals, either short-term or long-term, but they look at each of the 7 areas of life so they can identify how they want to grow and learn and achieve a better level of balance. And it seems to work.
And you do this for students, I understand, professionals across the board, more or less.
I've been an executive coach and life coach, taught some courses. One that I got to design, which I love, called Life Planning and Leadership, actually helps students to write a draft plan for their lives while they're in school. And this is really important because the people I talk to, between 90 and 100% of the alumni wish that we had gotten that when we were in high school or college. And most of even the students who are 18 to 22 still see the value in doing that. Mm-hmm. So it's a process. If we want to help students do their best and prepare the next generation of citizens, we as leaders will try to put processes in place to help good people do the right things automatically, which means including identifying a draft plan, mission, vision, values, beliefs, goals, spiritually, your callings, gifts, and talents. If we can answer some of life's most important questions and help young people to do that, then we're going to have better attitude, attendance, and achievement in schools. Our academic achievement will go up in the South, where sometimes we often are in the bottom quartile. And that's one of the things that we can do by boosting self-motivation from the inside.
Okay, Michael, you got a question? I'm going to step away just for a second, guys. I got a little itch. Okay,
absolutely. I'll take care of it.
Hi, Michael.
How you doing, David? Thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Let me ask you a question here, and you are quite, how might I put it? You're the person that I need to ask this question based on all your experience.
Okay.
Tell me, what is the leadership style and qualities of the former president that's now running around the country trying to impart or meddle in new elections? What is his leadership style? And I take it for granted that he never attended any of your classes, but please answer my question.
No, I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question, Michael, but thanks for asking me. I would just say that a lot of us folks have great strengths and we have weaknesses too. And sometimes when we don't use them in the right way, they end up being the same thing. So I don't have a good comment about political folks. What I do believe that leaders should be doing is to build on what we're already teaching, which is trying to character, set a good example, management by walking around, and all the things that you've been hearing about for decades. But in addition to that, we've got to focus on putting good processes in place. We hear that in college athletics now, but it's time for education and corporate America to take the leadership on that. So you define what gets rewarded here. And for example, on planning and personal leadership, at West Point, they teach you to state intent with your leader and for the leaders to state intent with their folks. And yet we know that people like planning and knowing where you're going, and yet we've not yet incorporated that into what we do in high school and college, for example. So in my sense, I want to see more of us ordinary people do extraordinary things by putting processes in place to help people grow and develop. And one of the things that we can do is through the planning, having best practices for leading our lives, et cetera. Okay. So we've got to pay attention. Just about 20 something years ago, I think Dr. Covey, when he was alive, wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a best-selling book in the world on personal leadership. Thom actually had him here in 1993, and he spoke out at Birmingham Southern's campus. We had 1,000 people from 9 states. And people were reading that and starting to focus more on mission statements and the like. But yet we as leaders in our social systems need to act on that because we still don't have that as an outcome for high school or college. And if we did, more people would be focused on what it takes for me to do my best, each person might be saying. And if we did that, we're going to have people more focused on doing the right things and less focused on going with the flow before they're prepared and getting involved with a lot of the negative things that we see in society, drugs and wasting time and the like. So as a simple sounding word, the number one part of our strategy is to help young people and all of us to have more purpose, to understand what that is and be able to focus on that more. And if we do that, then we're all going to be better leaders and our society is going to come up a level. Does that make sense, Michael? Even though that's not about the former president?
Yes, well, it is and it's not. But
okay.
As a follow-up to that, what impact do you think social media is having on our new generation and developing them into leaders? Now, it could be a good tool, but I'm just asking from your perspective, because I have my own opinion about social
Sure.
media and its impact on leadership development.
Okay. Well, maybe I should be asking you, but my quick answer is I think this concept of our strengths and our weaknesses are often the same. Social media has a great opportunity to inspire people, to put more positive and role models in front of us, to lift up with positive ideas and quotations and all of that. But yet, there's a lot of negativity is one, and I'm seeing that a lot of people are wasting time when they don't have a lot of focus on what it is that's most important to them. By the way, there's a stat that I read some years ago, but I think it's safe now, that the average person in America is involved with TV and or social media between 20 and 30 hours per week. I've never had a single seminar student say that that was their goal, is to spend 4 or 5 hours per day watching TV or escaping or focused on entertainment. So social media, we need to use it better. And so what's your idea about that?
Well, I feel like it's kind of watered down our society, and particularly our young people that have grown up with it. In my opinion, it's developed, it has hindered their development from a maturity standpoint and from ability to think for themselves and have critical thinking. Like you, I agree that it can be used in a positive manner, but it's not being done today.
That's a very good point.
I'll just have a little quick comment on that. I think the things you see that go virtual, in other words, they get thousands and thousands of people. I don't see too many of those things that make great contributions to society.
Huge point.
They generally, now, you may see something that's about a child, a baby, and that's cute, and then, that's great.
Right.
But you become an influencer because you can influence people to wear a certain pair of pants or something. I don't know. I like the strategy for your best self. And
yes, sir.
I don't know if that helps us become our best self.
Well, I think it does. Tom, you touched on a huge point there. Media sometimes and other people are trying to use drama to get the attention of people. And sometimes it's because people need or want to feel something, a little extra inspiration or drama that perhaps in many cases is what's happening with a lot of these negative kinds of things. But I think if we did focus more at school and at home and at church and in professional organizations on defining what it is to do our best selves, and then rewarding students and others in professional life for doing those things, just like taught in college sports these days about having process, people will be more focused on that, and they will be more dialed in to their purpose for being on this planet, rather than not having much purpose and being able to be distracted by the kinds of stuff that you're talking about that goes viral. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, it does. I mean,
does.
and everything that goes viral, I'm not saying it's bad. I had a couple of friends of mine went to high school with, 2 women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm I'm not much into the whole political thing, but during the last election, every day they just fussed, they just argued. They just so and so this, and I mean, it was vicious. And I couldn't. It's like, okay, come on, you guys. You guys are friends.
Right.
Well, what are you doing? But I do think that, and you mentioned the word drama. There's a lot of created drama that allows people to get sucked into it. And I mean, what you're entitled to your opinion. That's the way I feel. And
right.
It's that. It's an opinion. Doesn't make it fact. And so anyway, Barbara, you got something? Dr. Dave, you had something? Go ahead.
Just quickly, but I want to hear from Barbara. But you mentioned best self strategy, best self leadership. Did you have a comment about that, or because that's a huge point that we need to add?
Well, I speak to a class twice a year at Auburn, and actually one at Texas Tech I do twice a year, and in particular the one at Auburn focuses on being your best self.
Good.
It's an honors class. There are maybe as many as 15 people in there, so it's really where you can get in there and discuss and talk and so on and so forth. And the instructor is really about the class is called being your best you, and how do you find yourself to be your best you. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I don't know. It's a different world we're living in, that's for sure.
Sure.
And so we'll just have to see where we land, I guess. But I think your point about being your best self is very similar to being your best you. And I think it can be very beneficial if, in fact, not the young people, but particularly the young people will use it. Barbara?
Well, if they go ahead. If they write those things with somebody inspiring like you and answer the question, how do I become and be my best self? And they share it with you as a professor, you can give mentoring back better. And the same thing with teachers and professors and parents. The stating of intent in order to get feedback from a mentor or leader is a powerful lesson that has not yet been inserted. So if I can help you with that, I would love to, but I see that it works a lot. So I'm excited that you're teaching that.
Okay. Barbara.
Yes, David, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and ask you about the Veterans Day program. I read that Alabama is the state that led the national movement to establish Veterans Day to honor veterans for all wars, and many consider this was actually started here in Alabama. Talk about that and how you're educating people and what formats you all are using to get the word out about that.
Would love to. And this is another idea about putting processes in place, because I went to high school less than 5 miles from where it started, and I never knew it. So,
hey, Dr. Dave, can I interrupt you for just a minute? Michael and Barbara, would you guys carry on with the questions? I've got something I need to deal with here. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Okay. Good luck, Thom. Barbara, it started in 1947 by a Birmingham native who had grown up in South Alabama. And the concept was we need to celebrate veterans of all wars. And that's from the colonial era all the way up to now. And a guy named Raymond Weeks went to Eisenhower and got his support on November 11, 46. It started in 47. Became a national holiday in 1954 when Eisenhower became president. The National Veteran Award was started that year. President Reagan in 1982 honored this gentleman, Mr. Weeks, as the driving force, also called the father of Veterans Day. And then, so I had some veterans approach me about 10 years ago that basically said, Doc, we've got a problem, and that is that it all started here, but probably less than 2% of Alabamians even know it. It's state and national history that is missing. Can you help us? And from a strategic aspect for the state, I said, we need to do something about that, because the very branding of Alabama and the South can be influenced here, because we led on 2 national movements, or at least happened in our state, start the movement for Veterans Day and civil rights. And to me, that means you've got freedom of liberty provided by military, and then we've got freedom of rights. And if you've got both of those, then we've got freedom to flourish. So one of the things that we're doing, we're running a campaign this year. It's the 75th anniversary of the very first Veterans Day hosted in Birmingham. And we've designed a poster that summarizes that history and the character traits. By the way, character is mandated to be taught in Alabama schools and in many other states. among them patriotism, courage, perseverance, citizenship, loyalty, compassion, cooperation, and the like. We're trying to get these posters out in organizations throughout the state so that the members, students, or members of that educational group or patriotic group will at least know that history. And the second thing is that we're trying to get them to read a statement that summarizes 7 points similar to what I've just mentioned. And we're hoping that the schools will not only mention this history, but also teach character traits between November 1 and November 10 prior to Veterans Day, trying to help students understand and internalize those character traits better. I need to add one of the bad things that happened by not educating about this event we're successful at. Congress made a mistake in the early 2000s and actually passed a resolution that it started in Kansas. Veterans Day started in Kansas.
Wow.
And it was claimed to have been started there 7 years after it actually started here.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll laugh at this. I had this bucket list goal about 10 years ago, and I said, I'm going to take a month of my life and I'm going to go see the state superintendent of education and the governor's office, tourism and the like, and we're going to get this resolved. Well, it was good news and bad news. We found out that the governor was going to have a hard time signing a proclamation, as well as the mayor of Birmingham, because Congress said it started in Kansas, which was true that that's what it said. But so we had to dig in and prove to the United States Congress that it did in fact start in Alabama. And it took us almost 11 months to get the United States Senate to pass the resolution that corrected it. And now we have to educate on it.
Right.
So anyway, though, thank you for asking about that. It's important to the South, I think, that people know that, in addition to taking the day off.
Right. And if teachers or schools or organizations want to get copies of this poster, how can they get that?
Well, they can go to there's two ways. First, they can go see it and maybe show it on their screens in their classrooms at veteransdayfoundingeducation.us. You can also get veteransdayfoundingeducation.us. You can also go to lifeleadersinstitute.org, and then under programs, you find the Veterans Day history, or they can write to me, David at lifeleadersinstitute.org, and I'll help them with it. So they can see it there, they can show it on their screens, and if they physically want one, like to frame and to display someplace, we can get one sent to them. We just had the Department of Veterans Affairs stepped up right away, and they're putting them in 61 county offices all over the state of Alabama, so that all their veterans will feel that they live in a state where they are appreciated in that particular way. And we're working with the American Legion, and now as many schools as we can to get it in. That's really the key. Veterans organizations, patriotic organizations, and schools. We're going to focus on that more this year. So does that help? Or if anybody needs anything, if they'll write to me, I'll make sure they get taken care of.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Barbara, Michael.
Thanks, Barbara.
Rescue animals you had.
Bless you.
Got quite a few animals there. And tell me how you marry that in with the leadership skills of the young people you're trying to help.
Are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah, we're here.
34 animals now, mostly horses or equines, horses, donkeys, ponies. And so we're trying to display compassionate care and get volunteers and donors to help provide that compassionate care. But we're also trying to put an educational spotlight on why they were in trouble in the first place. And it's hard to say, but the people who abuse and abandon animals typically are former children and former students. So subsequently, we think that this idea that's been mandated by the legislature, for example, in this state for 27 years to teach character traits for 10 minutes or more per day, including compassion, courage, cooperation, and others, that needs to be taught in our schools. And down here, we use the animals when the kids come down with moms and dads and teachers and grandparents and others to tell the stories of these students and try to teach the idea about ethical treatment of animals. And basically, and it's important to teach that character because most people are going to teach other people, or treat other people the same way as they treat animals when nobody's looking. And so we're trying to be a leader on character traits education, as well as taking care of the animals.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Barbara,
Did I go? I might have gone silent there. Sorry.
No.
We can hear you.
David.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking that, Michael. Just one quick story, just to why this is important, because most of us, if you're not in the animal rescue and support, we don't always see it. But one of the horses, for example, was rescued by the sheriff's department. Vet said was 1 week away from starvation, death. And that horse has gained 300 pounds since being here and looks fabulous and is a great horse. Another one, I got an emergency call, and I'm not intending to be a rescue. We're a sanctuary, and this was not a goal, by the way, and I teach strategic planning, Thom. but they just started finding me, but we had one emergency call. Somebody, we rescued a dog. We ended up naming him Rambo. He'd been tied to a tree and left in the woods for 3 days.
Wow.
And the person who called me about it came out there and found a machete and a garbage bag on the trail going out there. So we named him Rambo because, like the movie, he fought his way out of the jungle to get away from people trying to kill him. Wow. So if a former student is doing that, we've got to raise the bar on teaching citizenship and character. And this is going to translate into the way we treat each other and corporate behavior and all that, I think. So I think there is a connection. So thanks for asking.
Sure.
And David, as a follow-up to that question, how do you fund the activities for the Compassionate Barn?
Well, I started out doing it myself, which means I was the reason we were doing well, but I was the reason we were not doing better. But now that we've incorporated it into the 501c3, we're starting to get financial support from people who love animals and want to see the character traits and the compassionate care continue. And so we're almost at break even on the food part. So we're hoping to get that done and then improve shelter and then be able to do more educationally about advocating, getting dogs off chains, teaching character traits to kids throughout the state, helping parents and teachers to do that. So mostly it's people who will respond to something they see on Facebook, or they come down here and visit and they say, I want to help with this. So we even have some parents bringing their son down here this Saturday afternoon. Probably a brilliant kid that's got some behavioral challenges according to his teachers at school. Mm-hmm. And this is our third time to have him out here, and we're working on trying to help him learn some control and focus and concentration and have a better vision for his life. And so we're trying to help parents and teachers in that way. So thank you.
That's great.
Okay. We've got a really bad echo. I don't know what that's about. Dr. Dave, man, you've come a long way. You've done some really good things, and it's just great to hear from you. Is Michael, Barbara, anybody, or Dr. Dave, you got anything else you want to add?
Just want to say thank you. I know we're near the end of our time, and I just want to encourage people, your listeners, to consider putting into practice the idea that we need to answer life's important questions, like what's our mission and vision and values and beliefs and goals, and trying to not only write it, but also to use it every day to review and to stay on focus and to try to internalize the purpose that we have, and seek people who we can help and who want to help us to achieve that. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do is for parents and schools and others. And it's just a simple sounding thing that everybody knows, but we've got to implement at a higher level if we want to raise society to the next level faster. Thank you.
Let me give you one little final thing here, and I think it's along the lines of what you were just talking about. We were talking earlier about that quarterback kid, Malik Willis, and he had a setback and so on and so forth. If he has defined his life in terms of he has a strategy to be his best self, and he's focused on the 7 areas of his life, this disappointment could end up being something that propels him forward. Is that, you agree? You disagree?
I do, and I've got a few seconds to support that. There's a concept called positive psychology that studies people who've had PTSD. And the professor who did that actually taught this for the U.S. Army. Now, people who have traumas and setbacks, they're a lot more pronounced sometimes if you're in warfare. But what he found, which is highly powerful for whether you've been in combat or not, a setback like this is part of it, that many people who've had traumas and setbacks think that you can't do anything about it. Well, that's wrong. In the bell curve, about 1/3 recover to about where they do okay, but they're still feeling disappointed, et cetera. But about 1/3 also come back and improve and get healthy again. But what's really most important, fully 1/3 actually get stronger because of the adversity and the trauma and the perseverance and getting through it. They become better, stronger individuals because of the trauma, whether it's a PTSD or we all have traumas in life, right? Huge disappointments. So yes, he can get better and use this as a way to get stronger, but he's got to focus on his vision for who he wants to be. And the one thing that most of us need to do better at is having some mentors who will help us with that vision to get there. So we are not just doing it alone.
Okay. All right, man. That's great. I'd like to read a comment from one of our viewers, Dr. Dave, who says, "Thank you, Dr. Dave. Awesome information. As a veteran advocating for veterans, I will definitely share this information with fellow vets, specifically the ones that suffer from trauma. There are a lot of vets out there." So you're obviously touching a lot of people, man.
10 years ago, it's been a while since then, I taught a course for a year called Veterans Making Comebacks, and it was previously homeless vets. And the thing is, rather than sit around and talk, which is very helpful, we assessed what was holding them back now. Sometimes it's addictions to anger and alcohol and other things. But then light just went out. Then we, and then we got them to write plans that were the solutions for what they could do. I'm going to fix it. And so I think that behavior, oops. All right, now we're a little back in line. So that can have powerful impact for veterans or anybody else. I love the concept, mastering your Goliaths. And in that concept, David and Goliath had that fight. And this is why purpose is important. David wasn't trying to be a cool dude or a tough guy. I mean, he was the shepherd boy, right? But the sense of purpose to protect his people was what motivated him to enter battle with a Goliath professional warrior. So if we want to master our Goliaths, we need to get a focus on what our purpose is and how we can have solutions to give us hope and action steps that if we take them, that we have a shot at being successful. So I encourage all of us to do that and to help students and others to do the same thing. And we've got a better shot at doing what you teach in your class about being our best selves and the best we can be. Thanks for the chance with positive people like you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on with us. It's great to reconnect with you. It's been a while, and I think all the things you're doing are absolutely wonderful. So you're changing people's lives, and that makes a big difference. So let me end up with my closing commentary today. Will be a prediction. I'd like to go back to the beginning of today's show and predict that all the prognostication about Malik Willis and his third-round talent will be washed away quickly once this young man hits the NFL. And it's a big if the offensive minds at the Tennessee Titans will coach him up rather than not. The game has changed. We got to get rid of the stereotypes. A quarterback does not have to be 6'2" and stand in the pocket and get creamed by the oncoming rush. Quarterbacks today can be mobile. Haven't we learned that from Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, and et cetera, and et cetera? The mobile quarterback is the future, even when GMs and coaches and owners try to take us back to yesteryear. And that's how I see it on May 3rd in the year of 2022. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you all, appreciate all of your comments. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-List guest, Dr. Dave Dyson. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer. Remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe and peace.